Right, so welcome.
Hi.
Welcome, Sally and Susie, to the session again. So great you can make it. So you had a question, Susie, you were going to ask me.
I just wondered how you dealt with all the, I'm going to call it shitstorm, but you've got another word for it, ain't you?
Sorry, let me just fix my volume. Sorry, ask again.
You know, when we go through that whole, the negative emotions and the thoughts and they're going wishing round like you're stuck in the mud, how do you deal with all that? How do you?
Well, it leads nicely into today's topic, really, which is about transcending the level of feelings, emotions. So it's mind training. You need to start to become more and more aware of those emotions through a process like A Course in Miracles, the workbook. It's all about starting to tune in and become aware of what you're thinking and you're feeling. And then the second step is to choose to let it go, which many teachers and teachings don't really emphasize. They just say awareness is enough. Well, Yeshua's saying to us, no, it's not enough. You need to actively choose to let it go. So there's a conscious choice. And then in that choice, you're reminding yourself about who you are. As you choose to let go, you affirm the one self, the belief in oneness, the one self, the Christ. And you let go of the idea of separation. And of being
different levels of letting go then, because I was doing emotional acceptance before I joined A Course in Miracles, and that is about allowing yourself just to be okay with how you are feeling and let everything come up. And I guess I got to a stage of I allowed it all to come up, and then the deeper I got, I didn't want to know. I kind of, you know, the separate self obviously took over, or my habits, I just went back into the pattern of, oh, I don't want to face this, and just went, you know. And I think that's where my teaching for others stopped, because there always seems to be that something happens and then you follow through, you know, like first when I was coaching, everybody was coming, and then there's a part of me denying what was going on in my life. So I was meeting other people that were denying, because this is great to see it in that way. But then the emotional stuff was like, I think everything that I've had, or even the emotional acceptance, was you always got back to that peaceful state, that peace that's always within you. But I never got to that peace. It was very rare that I got to that peace. And then recently, or last year or something, I got back into that peace, knowing that the peace is with me. There's space within me, and stillness is there. It's always there. That's what you need to focus on. I get so distracted. We know it's all here. It's the mind, like you said, and then I can understand the mind training now. But it's the voice. It's reminding yourself that the voice is not you, you know. And I think that's what makes you feel that you're spiraling out of control with all the emotions and feelings. And I mean, that video you shared today was great, because it's like he gave an example of a woman, and the way we see, and the way we perceive and assume.
Her feelings were, you know, trust your feelings, but
you
know, we're talking about the level of emotions, which are by definition a movement away from the state of pure formless awareness.
I guess, you know, when you speak about your experience of what you had, which sounds really profound, and it seemed like you were constantly in that state of just sitting in that space, and then one day obviously you had to just think, oh, I'm going to lie down and let it just be. is that what you went through consistently? Were you just in that kind of, was everything just coming up, or did you get to that place of, and just sit and let whatever rise up? Because that's the thing. Sometimes we're ready to, like, I can sit in practice sometimes, but like the process we've had in the past few weeks and the stuff that you've done with me has been fantastic, but it does feel like I'm opening a can even bigger, and it's like I'm going backwards again, following what I knew, rather than taking this head on and going forward with it. And I just wondered if that's how you know, how did you cope in your, was it 9-10 days of a retreat?
Yeah, it was 9. It was a 10-day retreat, 9 days of which were silent. So you couldn't speak to any of the participants. You could speak to the teacher or the facilitator, you know, there's an organizer, in case you needed anything. You know, obviously it's just no speeches, but difficult to manage if there's any problems, or there was you could have an audience with the teacher at lunchtime, so you could ask questions during the sessions in the evenings. There was time for questions as well, so it wasn't entirely silent, but you couldn't do any of the chit-chattering with participants. They stopped that, because it obviously that engages the mind. You know, you standing around waiting for a session, and then, oh, you know, how you doing, you chat. And so the idea is, you know, no, don't go out. It's you know, totally just being with yourself and facing your own stuff and not distracting yourself. I've done a lot of meditation in my life, so I mean, this was the most intense period of it. But you know, I was quite comfortable meditating for an hour or two at a time, so it was okay. I found it manageable. Some, you know, things did come up, and I found the process of facing the pain was quite interesting. There was definitely a realization that came to me on day 4. I remember so up to that point they'd said, okay, well, you can move around, and you know, if you need to kind of move your body. So, you know, I'd been every 5-10 minutes I'd shift, just like slightly move, and it sort of manages the discomfort because you're sitting cross-legged. Well, I had my own. I didn't actually cross my legs. I just sat my legs, my soles of my feet together, and then the knees out, because otherwise it just, that posture cross-legged puts too much pressure on your knees, I found. So I had a reasonable posture, but then they on day 4 they said, okay, you're going to do a sitting of firm determination, they called it, which is an hour where you're not supposed to move. And for some reason I'd got into a position that actually wasn't the normal one. It was slightly uncomfortable. So I'm like, now 3 minutes into the session, they're saying, right, you know, you got to do an hour here. I'm going, really? Or do I just move? You know, do I give in to it? And I was like, okay, well, let's just go with this. You know, let's see. And so I just sat and I scanned my body. We started the body scanning process then, and I really got it. Something clicked in me. I said, I understand what they're trying to do here, because I just scanned that my left hip was particularly, you know, painful. But I just scanned it, and it just became a sensation. It was like, okay, so I'm scanning through that. It's just an intense sensation. There's kind of the pressure there. There's a bit of heat, and I really understood then what, you know, it's all about. The body scanning technique is it's about looking without judgment, perceiving without judgment. So instead of making it into something that you're resisting, that's now a pain, and you suffer mentally and emotionally as a result, you just observe it. It's a sensation in your body. And so the same thing applies to emotions. Way of dealing with emotions is just observe them in the same dispassionate way. Okay, this is a sensation in the body. This was, you know, located in my hip, but an emotion, if it's a strong emotion, you'll feel it in your body, won't you? You'll feel it. Maybe there's a knot in your stomach, butterflies in your stomach. Maybe you'll feel tightness, tension, clenching of your jaw, clenching of your fists. At the extreme, in a panic attack, you know, sweaty palms, nausea, you know, these are all the physical symptoms of the emotion. And the Buddha's insight was that every emotion then has this physical component. You can experience it as a sensation in your body. So his technique was to go, and by observing the body and the sensations in the body, you could then start observing emotion and detaching from that emotion, instead of allowing that emotion just to create its normal pattern and you suffering. By just observing it in a dispassionate way, you were undoing its effects and undoing its power. You would just observe it, and naturally there's then it's sort of a letting go, a detachment. So he didn't talk about forgiveness or letting go, but he did talk about non-attachment, just observing and not being attached. 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But I do think Yeshua has taken it to another level, because he's saying, well, actually you can consciously choose to let it go. So that's Course in Miracles language for forgiveness. In Course in Miracles language, that's forgiveness, is the choice. You need to become aware of something first, and then you choose to let it go. So you can actually facilitate the letting go of that thought and emotion by being aware of it, and then using I use the breath just to help me make a conscious choice, along with, say, a mind training lesson. So, okay, I can let that feeling go. Whereas the Buddhist technique is more just observe it and let it subside. And both do work. Vipassana does work. I think maybe it will take a longer time.
I think when I did emotional acceptance, and I'd gone through, that was 2019 when I started that, and I did let go of a lot of things, but that, I think it's everything that was coming up. But obviously it's a process that I'm seeing that can be done every day, because we need to let go of something. The biggest thing I found was resistance, and I can always remember Eckhart Tolle saying that even if you've got resistance, it's just being okay with knowing you've got it, and it is a form of it. You will release it, but I find there's a lot of resistance. But I can remember doing the emotional acceptance and running classes for them, and we were always told that an emotion lands into your body within 90 seconds. It shoots out if you do it just naturally, but we hold on to it for dear life as if it's, and that's what causes the pain and suffering. So I'm getting that as well, but I'm just, unless the body's always in resistance and you don't know, because we can talk, we can say we're doing this, and we are doing it to some extent, but there's always something there, isn't there? Or is that just you overthinking, analysing, and you can't let it go? That's it. You can't seem to let it go. It's like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for God knows that. When's it?
Yeah, I mean, the ego is very persistent. So a lot of people, they say they're willing, and you can do it, but it's terrifying. You're going into the abyss, into the void, into a state where the ego is no longer there, and the ego is telling you this is death, and this is to to be avoided at all costs. And Yeshua is saying, no, that's eternal life. That state beyond the ego is just pure formless awareness of perfect love, in which that's your true home.
So what would you say is resistance? What, if you're thinking about resistance as something, is that the stuck energy within it, or is it just it's what we call that's just a stagnation of?
It's fear. Resistance is fear. You don't want to let go. You want to hold on to the old pattern, thoughts and emotion, because it gives you some identity. It gives you some kind of security, false security. It keeps hurting you, but at least according to the ego anyway, you exist. You have your own identity. And so we cherish that. We're addicted to that, as we were talking about, rather than choosing the pure formless awareness of perfect love that underlies it. That has no, there's no separate identity there. So you cease to exist. To be happy, you need to annihilate the ego. It's a path of self-annihilation. Eckhart Tolle once called it. And if you say to most people, you're going to have to annihilate yourself to be truly happy and peaceful, they might think twice. and probably go, oh, that doesn't sound very good. But that, that self that you're annihilating was never real. So
But then
it's not really destroying anything real. You're just undoing what was never real in your mind.
Yeah. I think there's a lot I'm taking from it, but at the minute, it does feel like you can always remember that you either follow the truth or you follow the ego. And I'm just realizing or recognizing who I am or where I am and what I'm doing. And like you said, sometimes you can get there, but it's so quick, isn't it, sometimes? And it's so subtle that you don't even realize I wouldn't say trap. You go back to an error that you want to correct, but you
fall into the same patterns because they're deep-seated patterns. But if you're aware of it, you start becoming aware. Oh, okay, so I've just gone down that rabbit hole and I've been there for half an hour. Ideally, less time. Maybe it's only a minute or two. Okay, so stop, pause, breathe, interrupt the pattern. And this is why it's giving us the mind training with the workbook lessons. Okay, interrupt the pattern of the ego frequently. Every hour, interrupt the pattern. And this is the way you undo it. Just keep interrupting the pattern of your habitual thoughts and emotions. Which is another approach. The Vipassana is more long. Okay, so you got to meditate for hours. Yes, you're saying just do it. Using the mind training, do it very quickly. Don't just spend more than a minute, an hour on it. So we can actually make the time if we remember. Just do this, and this will systematically and progressively undo your belief in this ego. And if you keep going, it's got to go. It will go. It might take years, to be fully undone, but you're in a process and you're making progress, and you can feel that. And so just think you're a marathon runner here. You're running and in fact it's an ultra marathon. And you just keep going and you plod on every day, and this will be for the rest of your life. Until your human life, this lifetime is over. The work continues.
What I found helpful was doing it with somebody else, being present with it with someone else. Did a few years of that where we'd do it in a big group or we'd do it in groups of 3, where people would just sit there silently with us. And we just go through what we're thinking, what we're feeling, the sensations in the body. And I found that was a really good practice. I can do it on my own now, but at the time it was teaching me not to have my mind wander off. And if it did wander off, declare it and then come back to what am I feeling, what am I thinking, what am I feeling. And what they suggested in those groups was to write it down if you're on your own, because your mind will just disappear on you and go off somewhere. If you find yourself with a pen and paper, you'll suddenly go, why am I holding a pen? Oh yeah, I was doing that, wasn't I? And then you'll go back to being focused on the subject that you're doing it. But yeah, on your own, it's tricky, isn't it?
The ego doesn't want you to do the work, so often it's gonna find every reason not to do it. It'll make you forget, make you go to sleep, distract you. I've got something else to do, someone calls, there's many distractions that it can invent. Whereas if you're in a group and you've dedicated time with that group to doing it, then it's less easy to be distracted. It's finding ways that work for you. And it's like you're learning, you're learning. Just learning a new way of living. Part of the rebirth process at whatever age, at a fairly advanced age. This is what being reborn in the spirit means. You've got to learn how to live again. Now with guidance of the Holy Spirit guiding you in every moment, and these tools and techniques are there to just help you.
Now I actually find that presencing, sitting with something, is really joyful, because now I've learned through practicing it so much that it always leads to love, peace, love, ever. So even if I don't always get to the love and the peace, I know that that's there. So whatever the subject is and however difficult it is, there is like a reward at the end of it, you know, to get through the painful bit or the resistance part feels quite joyful to actually attempt when you know what's at the other side of it. So for a few years, that's been a good practice.
Well, today's lesson, my only goal is God, or pure formless awareness of perfect love. So I may not be experiencing that now, but my goal is that. And so I'll do things that take me there. And I'm motivated or inspired, maybe is a better word, inspired to do these things, because I know that, you know, this awareness is there waiting for me. On the other side of the pain lies a transcendent awareness that is lovely, beautiful. You know, this is what I want. I want more of this awareness. So I'm motivated to do the work to have that experience more and more.
I've had so much lately. The last couple of days, I've come off the call and I'm just in that space of like, no thoughts, perfect peace, nothing to do. You know, it's like, whoa, today I really didn't want to do some stuff. You know, it's like, it's so lovely. It is a lovely state, but it's a non-doing state, isn't it? There seems to me I'm still obviously learning, but when I'm deep in it, there's nothing going on. And then you can come out of it slightly, can't you? And then you can be in the flow state where you're doing and listening and being all at the same time. But the last couple of days, I keep going into the much deeper state, which is just, there's nothing. So yesterday was a non-productive couple of days, really. But that's good because I've not done that for hours before. But it's been good.
Well, yeah, so it depends on your perspective. Non-productive from what perspective?
From
the ego's perspective is, well, you didn't get much done, which is, you know, not good for business. Ego's business, is it? Busyness. It's not good because we need to keep you doing. And if you're doing, then you forget about being. So it's just a call to be more, which is probably a good thing, because you said you've always had, you know, problems doing that, and it's been more focused on doing. Then going into the being is a shift and a change for you.
Yeah, it was my intention this week. Yeah, this week was going to be a being week.
Yeah. So, and nothing bad happened. No one got let down, or just being. But it's such a cultural program that our culture has seemingly imposed on people. And somehow it's not okay to just be. You need to be doing. You know, what have you done today? Have you been productive? Have you achieved anything? And just being happy and peaceful doesn't seem to cut it within that mindset. Oh, I actually did nothing really well.
People have been asking me
in my beingness, and I did nothing today.
Will ask me, what you're doing at the weekend, and I say, hopefully nothing. And people are quite impressed. But you know, if I can actually do nothing is another thing.
Oh, so it's working out, you know, as part of this, being and doing, and there's a balance between them and a flow. If you just sat and you were just being all the time, then that would probably cause problems on the level of form. Your life wouldn't, you can't function in this world without doing anything, mostly. So there's some doing required, but you might find that the balance readjusts and you end up being more like 50-50 than 90 doing and 10 being.
Yeah, that's the aim.
And if you can create a life that supports that, so your doing still supports you, and you can still maintain your life comfortably, and then great, that's the ideal. You can spend more time being rather than having to do. If everyone wasn't working, And these calls could be much fuller. You're like, well, why? Yeah, I'm not doing it, so why don't I join? But what often keeps people away is, well, I have a job to do. I have either an employed job, in which case I have an employer who's not wanting me. They certainly don't want to take me to take 3 hours doing spiritual practice during working time. Or I'm running my own business, in which case I have my own financial pressures and so on, because I need to earn from my time. So we find a way to transcend that, which I'm working on, actually. Some interesting things unfolding, so that you have time, really. So the time then allows you to have more being time. Things like passive income. I mean, there's this whole thing in personal growth, and many people touting it for the wrong reasons. It's like, oh, well, you're passive income so you can have a life of leisure and luxury, and have lots of pleasure and holidays, and go to fancy restaurants. That's not really the reason. The reason is it gives you time to do more spiritual practice and be more being oriented than doing oriented, which is a correction for most people, because they're just doing all the time. So the time gives them the time without the financial pressure. And we've constructed a system, really. You look at how financial system and economy and most people's lives work within that. So it's a system designed to create pressure to do and to keep busy. And there's no accident in that. The ego wants people to do and to keep busy, because if they have too much time to just be and to think, then it's going to be threatened by that. So the system is self-perpetuating. It's designed to perpetuate the doer, rather than the being that underlies the doer. And so that explains why the world is set up the way it is. It's an egoic construction, but you don't have to believe in it. So it's still your choice. Within that framework, you may not be able to change everyone's life and the whole system, but you can make choices yourself to remove yourself as much as possible from the matrix of having to be busy and do and make money. And it's a program.
Created a strong identity, though, to keep you safe. Because that's what I'm thinking. And I think, the more that I listen to what you're saying, I guess deep within, it for me is the creation of that you're never going to be happy, you see. And that's what this is all about, and I'm the one who's saying, right, okay, if I stay focused and do, my mind training, everything's going to be all right, and I'll keep plowing through. But I guess, and I know what you're saying, that people are so busy and they're so distracted as well. If you're not on your phone, or then they make different labels, like I said last week about ADHD or menopause or whatever. And I know it can come to play, but you are so distracted, and there is a reason for it, like you said. So that you can't.
The deeper reason is because the ego does not want you to have lots of time to think and reflect on it and start to become aware of the truth. So it keeps you very busy on the hamster wheel, just feeling the same feelings, thinking the same thoughts, doing the same things over and over again, and not having that time and that space. And so interrupting that pattern. Yes, she's very clever, because you say, look, interrupt that pattern every day, twice a day. You're going to do a longer meditation for maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then interrupt it frequently in the day. So those breath breaks, just take a few minutes, interrupt that busy doing pattern. And these calls also, a longer interrupt the pattern all the time, interrupt it, so that you start to bring in more peace, more stillness. And that starts to become your new default. Actually, that I'm always at peace. I'm always in that stillness, even if I'm in dynamic action. I could be doing stuff, but that stillness is, is always with me. And so then you're able to take it, your peace into your life as this idea of flow. You're flowing with every experience. Okay, so any other thoughts, comments? Let's have a look at today's teaching then, which this is nice preparation for. So let's have a look at this. Keeps going to the new one. Okay, so there we go. Let's just open that out. Okay, so there we go. So Susie, if you want to read the quote in the first paragraph for us, please.
The great thing to remember is that though our feelings come and go, God's love for us does not.
Yep, let's read those couple of paragraphs.
In today's inspirational quote, C.S. Lewis, a British writer and Anglican lay theologian, reminds us that our feelings or emotions are transient and temporary, but God's love is not. Translated into our alternative AOLG language, God's love becomes pure formless awareness, perfect love. So the adapted quote reads as follows. The great thing to remember is that though our feelings come and go, our pure formless awareness of perfect love does not.
Yeah, so that kind of changes the quote a bit, doesn't it? It makes it much more personal. God's love. God is not some entity outside of you loving you. It's your own awareness of love itself. Our pure formless awareness of perfect love does not. So it's a state of being that he's pointing to. So emotions come and go. Emotions fluctuate. They're shifting and changing all the time. But this true awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love, doesn't change. So it's always there. It's the very foundation, the foundational state of your mind. It's that which you cannot go beyond. There's nothing to let go of there. You've got to the core, to the essence of who you really are when you're in that state. And so it's a state of being rather than a feeling or an emotion. And there's a subtle difference between that. Maybe, Sally, you mentioned last week, I think it was last week, or maybe it was earlier this week, in one of your mystic experiences. You were just being, and you said it was like, just describe it in your own words. It was a state rather than a feeling or an emotion.
Yeah, it's difficult to describe, isn't it? It was just everything. It was just stillness, expansiveness, nothingness but everything. Timeless.
And very little thought, characterized by no thought and no emotion as such, although there's an awareness still, isn't it? So it's interesting. It's not anything moving you, nothing, emoting you, moving you away from that awareness, just this foundational state, this awareness, which we try and put in words, and words don't really do it justice, but it just kind of is a state. And it's a state rather than a feeling or an emotion.
Yeah, now you mention it, now you're asking me, the stillness is very important in that, because in everyday life there's energy moving, isn't there? It's emotion, energy and motion, that's it. And in the stillness there wasn't. Just complete.
So that's the changeless state, or the state of pure formless awareness in which nothing changes. This is what he's always pointing us to. He's saying this state exists within you, but you've covered it over. and you've invented another state where your mind is busy and active, and this pure formless awareness seems not to be there anymore. So this quote reminds us that there is this permanent state of awareness. Do you want to read that next paragraph?
Today's quote reminds us of the simple truth that there is a permanent state of awareness that transcends the level of fluctuating thoughts and emotions that characterizes most people's human experience. This is another level of awareness of a reality that is beyond the apparent duality and resultant conflict between opposites that seem to justify all these seemingly different thoughts and emotions. I had something come up, I think it was yesterday, where I asked a question and I asked to be guided to the answer. And I was guided to a particular book. I opened the book and the words that jumped out of the page at me was inner conflict. And it seems obvious. On another level, it was like, oh, that's what it's all about, the inner conflict. So everything that's not this pure awareness is conflict. And it was just like so basic and so
simple.
An awareness, a kind of a dropped in, that's what it's all about. Yeah. All the discomfort, all the pain, all the arguing in your head is all just inner conflict.
Because you have another awareness going on. That's the problem. So you have these two voices, two selves, two belief systems, two thought systems, two different kinds of awareness, and they conflict. They don't reconcile. The Spirit's telling you you're pure formless awareness of perfect love, and only that's real. And so there's only pure formless awareness of perfect love. Only that. That's all. And the other mind, your ego mind, is telling you that everything else is real. That everything that covers over that seems to contradict pure formless awareness of perfect love is real and true. And the one thing that's not real is love. So they're at polar opposites, completely the inverse of each other. And yet you're saying, well, the only way out of that apparent conflict is to choose. You must choose correctly which voice you're going to listen to.
So inner conflict is not choosing. It's kind of dancing between them consistently to cause some sort of discomfort.
So we vacillate. And, we're always choosing, even if we don't realize we're choosing. So if you, in fear or in anger or frustration, whatever the emotion is that's coming up, you are choosing the ego in that moment. You're choosing to be a separate self. And that doesn't feel good because that's denying then the truth of your true awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love. So there's a resistance there. It won't feel very good. But if you're not even aware that it doesn't feel good, and you just allow that to consume your mind, then the ego's got you. The ego's just running your mind. So it's a program. This idea of computer programs, and it can be helpful. You're just running the program. You're like a computer terminal, PC or a laptop or a phone, and you're just running a program. And the program is running you, and you have no true free will because you're just programmed. Like a character in a computer game, you're programmed. There's no free choice. You may think there's an illusion you have free will, but actually the program is making the choice for you, making the choices for you. But that's always going to conflict with the underlying truth that you are just pure formless awareness of perfect love, which can never be undone. That level of awareness is because it's your true awareness. So that's always sitting there underneath all of the covering. And the conflict is between those two levels of awareness.
So the only free will we have is to choose between ego or spirit.
Yeah, ultimately. The ego is trying to convince you that free will is to choose it. Oh, you can do what you want. That's its version of free will. But actually, that's imprisoned will. Your will is enslaved to a very harsh, insane, condemning, dictatorial tyrant. So that's not free will at all. Your will is being controlled by this program. So in that apparent, enslavement, now your one remaining freedom becomes to choose in every moment. You can choose which voice you're going to listen to. You don't have to listen to the voice of the insane tyrant. You can listen to the gentle voice of the Holy Spirit, which says, just let this all go. This crazy, insane, maniacal tyrant in your mind is not you. It's not true. And so then in that moment, when you choose this to listen to the Spirit, then the conflict's over temporarily. You resolve it and you feel peaceful until something else comes up, and then you experience another round of conflict and the emotions that go with it. So what Yeshua is saying is every time you experience that, you are choosing the ego. You are, although it's not a conscious choice necessarily, you are unconsciously choosing the ego. So he's trying to get us to make our choices more conscious. So we start realizing what we're doing, and then we can make another choice. So this brings us to my experience, which you asked me about, Julie. So I'll just describe what I went through, and it's relevant to this insight of these two awarenesses. So I did this Vipassana meditation retreat, which is 10 days, mainly silence. You don't talk to the participants, and you're pretty much meditating the whole day in a either cross-legged or you're sitting. Basically, it's not a lying down. So sitting for that length of time, can get very uncomfortable. So as much as you can try and make yourself comfortable with cushions and blankets, just the length of time, your bum starts to hurt, your legs start to hurt, and you get very kind of stiff. So they didn't actually incorporate any formal stretching, which I would have done if I'd been running it. I said, okay, well, let's do some, at least a half an hour of stretching every day. But, I guess they just wanted to keep it, entirely focused on one technique, which is the Vipassana meditation. So I've been doing this for 9 days, and sort of afternoon of day 9, you get to go back to your room, and there's a rest time. And then after that, I was in the meditation time, but I didn't go to the hall. And something in me said, I was really, sore, body was kind of aching. Something in me said, just let it go and just lie down. Although it's, officially meditation time, just actually lie down. And I suppose because of all of the intensity of the practice and the physical discomfort, the contrast to just lying down and suddenly not having any of that, not sitting in this really uncomfortable posture. It just relaxed the body and the mind. My mind just relaxed, and I let go. It's a surrender into this intense presence, as Eckhart Tolle calls it, or a holy instant in A Course in Miracles. And any sense of conscious thought and any sense of time just dropped away. There was no thought in the sense of I'm thinking about something, some form. There was no form, which is where the phrase pure formless awareness came from. Because afterwards I asked myself, well, what was that state? And I could only describe it as pure formless awareness. So I was just aware. I didn't go to sleep, but I was just aware for a time. I don't know how long it was, maybe only a minute, maybe a bit longer, maybe less. There was no sense of any time passing. But I came out of the state after a while, and then pretty much immediately, this higher awareness, or as the Course calls it, this Holy Spirit, immediately interpreted the experience for me, and it became very clear to me that this awareness that I just experienced was, this was it. This was God. This was what I'd been seeking for my whole life. And I'd finally just experienced it in its absolutely pristine purity. It was beautiful, the most beautiful experience I've had, but not something you can really put words to. And I realized that I had covered that over, that pure formless awareness of perfect love, that experience over with a whole lot of thoughts and emotions, all kinds of unhappy, meaningless thoughts and emotions that just covered it over. And that I'd created an entire world in order to justify that process. And so suddenly this teaching that the world is Maya or illusion, that the world of form is just a veil of illusion, is the how it's described. That made complete sense to me, because I realized it was a veil projected by my mind to justify these unhappy thoughts and emotions and cover over this awareness, and that I couldn't blame anyone else for that. That was entirely my responsibility, that I'd done this to myself. At which point I cried, because it was quite devastating, the sense of loss of having done this insanely stupid thing and covered over this pure formless awareness or beingness, and being lost in a dream world that seems to be very harsh and judgmental and cruel. And so I cried for I don't know how long. Again, time wasn't really a factor, but for a while, deep sadness came up. But it was the day I think I really fully realized that what Yeshua is teaching us in this course, and what every spiritual master has taught, is true. And I realized it not just intellectually, it was experiential. I really got it. It's just like the entire Course in Miracles kind of dropped into my understanding, and it all just made sense in that moment. So they call this kind of thing satori in Japanese. It's a moment of insight. So I had a mystic experience of pure formless awareness, and that lasted a bit, and then I came back into thoughts, but now that thought was very insightful thought, and it helped me to really perceive correctly, to really see what's going on here. With a level of deep insight into the nature and the purpose of the dream world that we've constructed to replace our pure formless awareness, which is what spiritual awakening is all about. It's your own insights, your own experience, not someone else's telling you this is the case. It's first-hand experiential knowledge, and I really got it. I felt like finally I understood this teaching. I'd been hammering away at A Course in Miracles for 15 years at that point, and I finally got it. I finally understood it. It just all dropped in, and so the search was over. It was just now about choosing to live in this awareness of pure formless awareness, rather than denying it and remaining stuck in the ego. So in these brief moments, I was this presence. I was just a pure formless awareness of perfect love. I added that later, but what came to me was pure formless awareness as a descriptor for this presence, for God. And I was just aware of myself. It was this awareness being aware of itself. And this, is the mystical merging of the Father and the Son in other language. The Father being that state, that ultimate awareness, and then me as the extension of that awareness, actually experiencing it. Then there's a merging. That awareness becomes my awareness. The Father and the Son become one, and we're reunited again, which is the whole point of the universe, is to reunite the seemingly separate awareness with its true awareness, which is its source. So all of this just downloaded, and I really felt very grateful that I'd had that experience. And a couple of hours earlier, I'd had another was more a vision. I had this vision of a hand coming out of nowhere, just putting a big golden orb into my heart chakra. And I felt that experience, like, oh, I actually feel something going in there. So I think maybe that was just preparing me for this. It was like, okay, this is the, symbolic. It's a vision of the gift that's going to come of pure formless awareness, perfect love, which I experienced directly. So there was no doubt anymore in my mind that this existed. And then the insight that came afterwards really confirmed, what A Course in Miracles is teaching, and every great spiritual teaching is taught, that this world is a veil of illusion. That, understanding fully dropped for me as to why it's called the veil of illusion. And I accessed this. Significant is I only came to this retreat because I managed to let go of my desire to fight a greedy lawyer who'd decided to screw me, basically, and others, and keep money that was owing according to an agreement for himself, and try to justify it. And of course, part of me was like, well, this is wrong, and I need to fight it. And there's other people involved, so I'm doing it to help them. And the ego's got all kinds of stories to try and justify it. But in the end, I made the choice for peace, and I let go of my desire to fight him and to get more money. And I just, the Holy Spirit said to me, well, just let me take care of it. Let me take care of the outcome. So that's exactly what I did. And as a result of that, I was able to go to the retreat with a peaceful mind. My heart was open. I wasn't burdened by that. I had, genuinely let it go. There wasn't a grievance anymore. I just accepted that, okay, I'd accepted his offer, and that was what I was going to get. It was unlikely I'd ever get anything more. So I let go of attachment, and that opened me up, I think, to this mystic experience. I think if I hadn't let go, I would never have had it. I wouldn't have gone to the retreat. I would have had to stay around and try and fight for this money, and that just felt completely wrong spiritually. So if you look at all of that, there was a mystic experience, there was pure formless awareness of perfect love, there was insight, so the Holy Spirit interpreted the experience, and there was a letting go. I let go of this, this grievance to just allow me to go there, and then I let go of the actual practice. That was the interesting thing for me. I had to go beyond the confines of the practice to have that experience. When I was willing to just let go of the rules of how I should be practicing and just totally let go, that's when I had the experience. So, practices can serve us to a point, but I think, what I observed with the Vipassana was it was too much emphasis on the practice. It was like 12 hours a day, and somehow, they were assuming that this was going to awaken you. And I saw from my conversation with the teacher that after 25 years of doing this many hours a day and many longer 10-day and 30-day and even 60-day silent retreats, she still didn't understand that there was an awareness beyond the awareness of impermanence. So the Buddha's teaching talks about anicca, everything's impermanent in this world. And so she said to me, well, I understand that there's nothing that's not impermanent. And I said, really? What about God? What about some kind of permanent awareness? This was before I had the mystic experience. And she kind of got a bit defensive and said, well, I know that I'm aware. I do know that, but her answer didn't indicate that. So she hadn't really fully gone into the changeless awareness. It got so into looking at the illusion of change, of changing form of this world, and saying it's just all changeable, but not replacing it with another awareness, which is what Yeshua is doing with the forgiveness. He's saying, be aware of it, but don't get stuck there. You need a replacement for it, which is the changeless awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love that's always there. And so you need to accept that into your mind, recognize it as the complete replacement for the ego's awareness and everything that it's made up. And then that took me really to another level in my own understanding. I really understood, that above the battleground, as Yeshua calls it, there is this changeless state. There is just a state. It's not really a feeling. It's not a thought. It's not a feeling. It's just a state of mind, a state of being that is the truth, that is God. And that's what I wanted. There was nothing else here. No other state or thought, emotion. Just to be clear about the language, no other thought and emotion could match that. There's nothing else I wanted. Which is why, today and 2 days ago, saying God is your only goal. Remember, God is your only goal. So this state is your only goal, because there's nothing else that can match it, that you would choose instead of it.
Thank you for sharing that, Jono. I really do appreciate that you shared that, because there's a lot of, it is your experience.
No, and then that's what it's about. The theory is one thing, and we can talk about the Course in Miracles theory forever, but it comes down to an experience, a universal experience that he points to in the Manual for Teachers. He's saying ultimately it's not about a universal theology, because it's impossible to agree on theology, but a universal experience is not only possible but necessary. In order for us to unify our minds, which is the whole program, the purpose here, we must have a universal experience, and it's a shared experience, and it's one experience. And this is why the mystics describe the same thing throughout the ages. Their accounts of their mystic experiences are remarkably similar across the whole of time, thousands of years sometimes. And you recognize that there must be a singular experience then of truth, because they've all experienced very similar things. Again, we can only go on accounts. There's language. It's now being used to describe something that's beyond language, but that accounts can point us to our own mystic experience. Say, well, actually, this is what's available for you. They weren't, the Buddha and Yeshua and these so-called great masters, they've become pedestalized over thousands of years. People have put, that's Alan Watts' term, put them on a pedestal. And we've said they were the great avatars, and they are somehow above the rest of humanity. And so they experienced that. And then we worship them, which is to make them a god. And that was not what they wanted at all. They understood that it was an experience that they had, and they wanted to share that experience because it was such a beautiful experience through their teaching. So it wasn't about worshiping Yeshua as the Son of God, or the Buddha as the great avatar, which people do, unfortunately. Still, they make that mistake. It was about learning from their experience. They are the way shows to that universal experience of God's love, which translates into our languages, the pure formless awareness of perfect love that we all want, and that they experienced, and they found a way to experience that, and then they shared that way in their teachings. So they're just the way shows who can be followed, and they want us to follow them, saying, well, just follow my way, and you will have the same experience. It's inevitable, because it is a universal experience. And this is ultimately what your true state is. So how can you fail to experience what ultimately is your true state of mind? You just have to undo all of the coverings that you've made up. Okay, so then the 12-minute video, that was interesting. Eckhart talks about feelings, gave an example of a lady who moved in with him, and the day after says, I have to leave. And he says, okay, well, that's fine. No, no judgment. And then she stays another night, and then says, no, actually, I've changed my mind. I'll stay. And she shares with him a few weeks later that she thought he was so weird because he was so out of the, the ordinary type of person that he might creep into a bedroom and kill her at night. That was a feeling she was having, but it was just fear. It was an irrational fear that was coming up. And so that betrayed her. And when she was able to maybe get over that and connect a bit more with her, her own source and see, who Eckhart really was, then the next day she was like, it's actually okay. She had a different feeling. So you've really got to interrogate your feelings and go, where's this coming from? Just because it's a feeling doesn't mean it's right. You don't deny it. You go, okay, I'm aware of this. I acknowledge it. But if it's incorrect, if it's coming from fear, then you would let it go. Say, no, I don't choose to continue with this. So acceptance doesn't mean that you accept it as the truth. So again, it's a word I don't use very much, because acceptance implies, well, to a lot of people, oh, well, I've accepted it as the truth, and that's it. Accepting your egoic emotions is really about acknowledging them, being aware of them, and then that allows you to move to step 2 of the radical forgiveness process, which is to let them go. So
I enjoyed that share. Actually, it did make me chuckle because, well, he did as well, didn't he? I thought it was a really good share.
Yeah, it's a bit of humor as well.
Yeah.
So how it works, and an example can bring it to life. So, oh no, she says, I always trust my feelings, but her feelings were betraying her because it's the ego's thought, the fear coming up, then brings the feeling, and it was completely not rational at all. Eckhart is just a gentle, loving, peaceful person. So, but it was just because he's so different from her, experience of other people, that she's like, I don't understand this, and therefore I get scared and fearful. And then she's projected her own fear onto the situation, and she's seeing in him what isn't there, but she's made it up herself. And so then her feelings, based on that projection perception mechanism we've talked about, are betraying her.
And how lucky she was to spend some time living with him and learn all this. And she'd have kicked herself afterwards if she'd have left and then he got famous. Then she went, oh, really? I missed that chance.
Yeah. She must, well, who knows how open she was. She said that I think she learned, he did say, I think she learned quite a lot, not necessarily from, him formally teaching her, just from observing it, just, living with him. She said it feels like I'm living in a flotation tank.
Yeah, sounds nice, doesn't it?
So it's just kind of like floating on this, in this presence, I suppose, was what she was trying to describe.
That's how I felt when I came off the call yesterday, probably the day before, just in a flotation.
Yeah. So should we rename the Zoom room the flotation tank? Come and spend some time in the flotation tank of bliss. So it sounds a bit hey chihuahua. But the truth is these states of mind are what everyone really wants. And we're all seeking that, and people just seek it in inappropriate ways. So that they're trying to find that that state of happiness and peace and satisfaction, but the ego's told them that they're going to get it in some way through through the world, through some worldly achievement or accomplishment, or some possession or special relationship, or ingesting a substance, or doing an activity, and not just because that's who they are and they can just be that. The ego is always, you've got to do something. And then the bliss of just going, actually, I don't have to do anything. I already am that. Like in that experience, it was just like, I wasn't even thinking I am. That came afterwards when I was reflecting on it with the Holy Spirit's guidance. But you just are that. It's just a complete experience. And there's nothing in that moment. there's nothing else required. There's no desire for anything else. So desire stops, and you're just rooted in that pure formless awareness of perfect love.
Like you said, though, we've covered it up, and we've lived in denial for so long.
And the world, I guess the key insight I had was the world is just the projection of the mind, the ego mind, in order to justify the thoughts and emotions that cover over pure formless awareness. That's what's going on here. That's why the world doesn't work, because it's designed to not work. It's designed to be the justification for all these false thoughts and emotions. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, now, of course it's not going to work. Why would you expect a world that's designed to do that to work? It's evidently not going to work. It's designed to trigger the negative thoughts and emotions, which is why the world seems to be so negative. And there's always some, drama arising, and then people react to that. Well, that's to keep them away from the changeless presence that they really are, and keep them in the mind spinning around. And then we invent a world that perpetuates that. So it was so clear. Yeah, I get it. And when you understand with that clarity, then the way out is there. Because the way out is simply don't believe in the separate self that's invented all of this. So none of its thoughts and none of its emotions are really justified. So you can let them go, and then you open yourself to what's left, which is just experience of pure formless awareness. Okay, so any questions, comments, any additions to that you'd like to make? Sally, if you want to speak about your mystic experience a bit, you're welcome to share.
No, just I'm more interested in the experiences that are happening in the last couple of days, just like being it definitely is changing every day I come on. Yeah, and
so you're moving more into the beingness, which is a natural evolution.
Really a deep beingness, not just the flow state and being present while I'm doing, which I've been to. It's a real deep one.
Yeah, going to the very core of the essence of your awareness, and just resting there, saying, I rest in God, I rest in that presence, and there's nothing else required. I don't need to think, I don't need to feel emotions, I just rest in this state.
Yeah, and I've still got a bit of me that goes, oh, don't go there today, you want to do all these other things. Which is Irish, isn't it? It's just really ridiculous.
Well, there's the ego doesn't go away, so it's just giving you the alternative. And life then consists of making the right choice. And sometimes you'll flow with, okay, there's stuff to do, but just do it in a non-resistant way. It just happens. There's no resistance anymore.
Yeah, that's what happened this morning. Things were just happening, and there was no doing involved at all, but it was happening.
Yeah. So you're being done through. There's this presence, this awareness is doing it through you, and it's able to do it, very well, very functionally. It's divine intelligence.
Certainly better than I could do it.
So then how easy is life? If you can just surrender to that presence, you don't have to do anything. That's why Yeshua says you need do nothing. A lot of people misinterpret that. So what's he saying? When he's just, sits in meditation all the time. He's saying the separate you needs do nothing. You need do nothing. Because the Spirit will do it all through you. But you must just let go and allow that to happen. Because if you interfere, then you're still doing something. And the result is not going to be optimal. Okay, so shall we have a little look at today's lesson 258, and what is sin again? What's your timing like this afternoon?
I've got no limitations.
Oh, I like it. So
I've given up.
You might actually do a little bit of the text then. I've got it till about 4:30, so we could carry on. I mean, we might get the text done today.
And
So
I'm still conscious by then, because up to now it's been meditation and then like zonked, like no action after that time.
well, maybe
We'll
we'll do
see.
the meditation at the end of the session. Nice way to end it. Okay, so what is sin? Let's just have a read of this again.
Sin is insanity. It is the means by which the mind is driven mad and seeks to let illusions take the place of truth. And being mad, it sees illusions where the truth should be and where it really is. Sin gave the body eyes, for what is there the innocent could behold. What need do they have sight, sounds, or touch? What could they hear or reach to grasp? What could they sense at all? To sense is not to know, and truth can only be filled with knowledge and nothing else. It's this passage. It's every time I read this passage, I go into that place of non-thinking. And yeah.
Good. Well, remember the words are pointing you to that state. So if they're doing that, then they're doing their job.
Yeah, but then you don't get much feedback or chit chat from it, because it's like,
Okay.
no ego there. There's nothing going on.
It doesn't have to be explained necessarily. So it just points you to the truth. Let's ask Susie. Susie, does that resonate with you? Do you understand that?
Well, I was going to say, one day I'm on it, doesn't mean anything. Next day I'm on it, it means something else. And today I'm like, sin is insanity. Gosh, where am I going with this?
It's the idea that you've made a mistake, and that mistake is permanent, it's irreversible, it's real, therefore, and it's punishable, ultimately by death. This is what sin means. And so he's saying this idea, so it's just an idea, a false idea, is what gave the body eyes. This is what is behind the entire dream world. Which again, is, if that doesn't rock your world a bit, nothing will. We go and we have a look at our diagram again. You see, sin sits below the level of individuality. So we have this idea that we are an individual self. We are in division, so in separation and duality. That's what individuality means. And so we name ourselves. Now we have a separate identity named, and that makes us believe that we really have destroyed God or love or oneness or pure formless awareness or perfect love. And that is the fundamental sin that the ego believes in. Because without that sin, it would not exist. There would be no individual self, you see. So sin and guilt for that sin underpin the ego's continuing belief in its individual identity, separate identity named. Does that make sense? And so the entire system of thought, this is all a belief system. It's now been projected out of the mind, and we've literally gone out of our minds. So the sin and the guilt cause us to have this terrible fear, overwhelming fear of punishment, a false expectation of punishment appearing real by a vengeful, wrathful God that's going to come and get us. Even though we think we've destroyed God, God's now coming back to get us. It makes no sense at all. There's flaws in the logic all over the place. But this is what the ego's believed. And so now it's got to run away and hide in this illusory world that it's invented, which is where the Big Bang comes in, right? A projection of all of this emotion, the guilt and the fear outwards to miscreate the physical universe. And then we end up caught up in bodies as an expression of separation. We seem to have our own identity caught up in a body, And then he's saying sin gave the body out. So this belief that you've done something wrong is what created the body and its sense perceptions that seem to be now outside of the perceiver. That's why it says sin gave the body out. Okay. Does that make sense? Any questions on that?
No.
So to sense is not to know. It's saying if you're sensing, you're in sense perceptions, you're rooted in your awareness of being human, and you're interacting with other seemingly separate people and things in the world, then you're asleep. And you've actually denied the truth. To sense is not to know. Right? Because we sense, we don't know. So sensation, the level of sensation, is perception, is involved with the body, and it's a product of the idea of separation. See? So we don't know anything here. We can perceive things, and we have various beliefs about what we perceive, none of which are true, until we choose the one voice, the Holy Spirit's voice, that reinterprets the dream. And that's the level of pure formless awareness, perfect love. That's above the battleground, above the idea of sin entirely. Okay, so happy with number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, if you can read that for us, read the translated version.
The body is the instrument the mind made in its efforts to deceive itself. Its purpose is to strive, yet the goal of striving can change, and now the body serves a different aim for striving. What it seeks for now is chosen by the aim the mind has taken as replacement for the goal of self-deception. Truth can be its aim as well as lies. The senses will then seek instead for witnesses to what is true.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, your mind's so powerful, isn't it?
Mm.
Mm,
Truth can be its aim as well as lies.
yeah, but that's what the frustration is, isn't it? It's the lies that you keep, like you said, if you just follow that sensation. Mm-hmm.
So the mind can reinterpret. This is our salvation. So we have the mind incorrectly used just perpetuates the ego and deceives itself. But now the body and all the body's senses and all your experiences seemingly in the body are chosen by the aim the mind has taken, its replacement for the goal of self-deception. So you can choose the only aim, which is what he's saying in today's lesson, is God. The goal is God, the goal is perfect oneness.
I feel quite grateful that you don't use the word God, because I think that still is such a big hiccup, isn't it? Not only for me, for everybody, but yeah, I'm really glad you use pure awareness of perfect love, because yeah.
Well, it's a better pointer. You know, the words, remember, the words are not the ultimate truth.
Yeah.
They just point us. They're like signposts to the truth. So it's a better signpost that's going to get you there more easily and effectively and quicker. And use it. Language is just, so there's no sacrosanct. I think a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, but the course is now some kind of sacred document. And we can't change it. But it's what's helpful. What words are just pointers, as Yeshua says. They're just symbols twice removed from reality. So the truth is not in the words. The truth lies beyond the words. The words are the means to maybe start realizing the truth. So if they're not that helpful, then change the words. Choose another word that's more helpful. Because in the end, it's the truth that's important and not the words.
Yeah.
In the end, he says, you'll go beyond the course. Forget this world, forget this course, and come with holy empty hands unto your God. That's the mystic experience. Just totally letting go of all of your own thoughts and emotions. You're just in that pure formless awareness, and you're content to rest there. And that's happening real time for you. So there's no need for anything else. Okay, so happy with number 2 then. Can you summarize that for us, Susie? What is he saying in number 2?
It's not about the body, is it?
Well, what else is he saying?
That love is the only way, and that is the truth.
And we can choose truth. I think the key point, we can choose truth. We can reinterpret everything the body experiences, body senses, and we can reinterpret it from the perspective of truth rather than the illusion. And that therein lies our freedom. It's our responsibility to do that. It's also our freedom. We can choose not to remain here, not to believe in the ego, not to believe in the illusions. Okay, happy to move to number 3.
Sin is the home of all illusions, which stand only for things imagined stemming from thoughts that are untrue. They are the proof that what has no reality is real. Sin proves that love's extension is evil, timelessness must have an end, and eternal life must die. And pure formless awareness of perfect love itself has lost the extension it loves, with only corruption to complete itself. Its awareness forever, overcome by death, love slain by hate, peace to be no more.
Okay, any thoughts on that?
No. No thoughts at all.
Just feelings arising?
No emotions. I just feel the body was a little bit hot and a little bit heavy, but there's no words with it, no thoughts with it. And just the feeling like I could just lie here forever and do nothing. It's like it feels like it's beyond the flow state. It's not like that I can feel inspired to go and do something. The inspiration is to do nothing and just be.
Just be. Which is where this all, ends up in pure beingness. So it means you're progressing on that path, and that you can look at this. I mean, this is we called it a stick paragraph. Sin is the home of all illusions. Proof that perfect love's extension is evil. Timelessness must have an end, and eternal life must die. And yet, when you realize what it is, it's just a childish belief. It's no effect. It doesn't really affect you. You can remain rooted in your true awareness. So any thoughts on it, Susie?
Yes, for me, I think, oh, Sally, that sounds amazing. And am I truly making the choice to follow truth, to follow love?
Well, you hear, so I'd say you.
Consciously, that's good. You've woke me up. Consciously, I'm here.
You're choosing to show up, and it's a process. You keep choosing, and And then these experiences start to, it's kind of the process takes you, the Holy Spirit takes you. And, you know, in time it unfolds for you. So, you know, Sally's been doing a lot of work. I mean, how long have you been on this course? 5 months?
Since about May, I think.
May, yeah. Was it May you joined? So that's 5 months. 5 months of doing at least 3 sessions a week. I'd say probably 3, 4, sometimes 5 sessions a week consistently. And then all the other work, and you're doing the instrument for peace and meditating, and you know, that's all gonna start to bring more and more the experience, the universal experience he's pointing to. You're going beyond intellectual understanding, beyond theology, that, you know, is necessary, maybe it's part of the undoing process, but into the pure experience, which is you know, what you're experiencing now. So the words are just pointing you more and more into that experience, which is the whole point. That's why this has deeper levels of significance. So you don't just get stuck in the words, you have a different experience with the words than you did the last time you read.
It feels like I've gone past the words.
Yeah.
But they just, yeah. Strange sensation, but pleasant. It feels a bit like opting out of the dream completely.
Well, that's exactly what's happening. If the end goal is pure formless awareness of perfect love, in which there are no dreams. It's just pure awareness, and the dream ceases to exist. So you know, you start to experience more of that. You're opting out of the dream and just going, this, I prefer this awareness. This awareness is, it's so delicious, it's so beautiful. I just want to stay in that. Why would I want to go anywhere else?
Exactly.
Which is the realization that all the masters come to. They go, well, why would I want to go anywhere else? You know, I've arrived. This is home. This is perfect, peaceful, lovely, blissful. Like, the world of form has no attraction for me anymore, because nothing really matches this. And people say, well, you're wasting your life in meditation. And they smile and they go, you have no idea. You have no idea what you're missing. You think that you know, is a productive use of life, because you think still in ego terms, that you're here to do something. No, I used to have this. I was going, well, you know, these mystics, and I was aware of them, but isn't it a bit of a waste? You know, they're just like sitting there meditating. They're not actually doing something in the world and making a difference and achieving things. But having had an experience like that, and you know, many meditations subsequent, you start to see that they just get the truth. They're like, well, nothing here really matters. There's nothing that can compare to that deep inner state. You know, we can call it peace and love and joy and bliss, whatever language, but it's just a pure experience of our source. Nothing can compare to that. So why would you choose anything else? You're just choosing what's less than that. What's a denial of that, by choosing something else. And so this is the universal experience Yesha's pointing to, saying in the end, everyone will choose that experience. When you choose it is up to you. The curriculum is set, but when you choose it was up to you. So you can avoid it for this lifetime, avoid it for another 10, 20, 30 lifetimes if you want. It's up to you. But at some point, you will choose to accept it. And now you're at that point. Well, there's no going back. Why would you want to go back into the madman's dreams, as he calls them, into the home of all illusions, where you have to, you know, now experience these deviations from love, these disconnects from love. Doesn't make any sense. So all good. If the words just point you into that experience, then just rest in that experience. Right, it's all.
I tell you what, watching you both is really, really good. I tell you, I feel like a naughty little school child. I really do.
What?
I'm telling you, the words you use and everything, the way you both. Oh gosh, I know I'm laughing as well, but this. You've just spot on, isn't it? Because in the now, I too have that choice. And I felt my shoulders going, I felt myself, and I look at Sally, and Sally's all, you know, and then you're talking about your eyes, and you're like, and I'm like, wow, you have the choice right now, Susie, to be, you know,
In that state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be very quite cool if all three of us are in it.
Yeah, we might have. I remember there was a chap called Jeremy Burnham. He's passed away now, but he said they would do Zoom calls or Skype calls, whatever they used, where they would just sit in silence for an hour or two together on Zoom. So there might be a little intro for 5 minutes. Then it'd be like, right, we're just gonna meditate and sit in silence. Because in the end, what is there to say? So Ramana was this great sage. You know, people would come to him asking for guidance and wisdom, and he said, "What do you want me to say? Just sit in silence with me. That's everything's there. I don't need to say anything." And sometimes ask them a question. So not a lot of words. You just say, "Who suffers?" So tell them the story of suffering. Who suffers? Say, well, you know, it's this and this, and so who's that? And through this process of inquiry, eventually they get to see that suffering self is not true, and it's just a falsehood. And then what remains is the pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is the essence of stillness.
May have to try that in your breath breaks. Do a breath break, which is just silent. You give it permission just to be still.
Yeah, you absolutely can. You know, these are all just techniques and pointers. There's no absolute, this is right, this is wrong. It's like what's helpful. And what might be really helpful for someone at one stage of their journey is not helpful on another stage. So they kind of progress beyond that. So there comes a point where you don't maybe necessarily need to do the workbook and do the lessons, and well, I'm just rooted in that state. But you might do it anyway because it just points you into that state, you know, quite effectively. It gives you the opportunity to do that. Okay, so number 4, a madman's dreams are frightening.
A madman's dreams are frightening, and sin appears indeed to terrify. And yet what sin perceives is just a childish game. The extension of perfect love may play. It has become a body, prey to evil and to guilt, with only a little life that ends in death. All the while our source shines on us and loves us with an everlasting love, which our pretenses cannot change at all. That childish game that I just played 2 minutes ago to say how great it was to witness, you know, you both. And yet I too have that choice. And I love that right at the end, Source shines on us and loves us with an everlasting love, which our pretenses cannot change at all. What is pretenses?
Pretenses are deception.
What we've made up.
Yeah, what we've made up. We're pretending.
Right.
Pretending, you know, sin is real, and there's all this drama and, you know, fear and, you know, all of this, and it's just a made up story to cover over the pure formless awareness of perfect love that we are. But so all the while we're playing this silly game, the source shines on us, which is exactly what C.S. Lewis says in his quote. He's saying it's always there. Doesn't matter what, fluctuating thoughts and emotions you have. God loves you constantly. It's not some entity outside of you loving you. That's not. It's your own pure formless awareness of that love, that perfect love that we're talking about. So all the while, so think about this, Susie. Throughout, your entire life of denying this, and all of the difficulties and the pain and the suffering, the victim story and dramas that you've had with your family and anyone else, through all of that, your source has been shining on you, and this awareness has always been there, with this everlasting love, just waiting for you to accept it. Because we can't be aware of it until we accept it into our minds. It doesn't help us much if we don't open to it and we don't accept it. Make sense?
Definitely. Accept that I am love.
And anything else, sin, guilt, fear, and attack, this is just delusional. It's just totally insane. Okay, and then number 5.
I'll give it a go. I'm not sure how.
Hmm.
Going.
So
How long, O extension of perfect love, will you maintain the game of sin? Shall we not put away those sharp-edged children's toys? How soon will you be ready to come home? Perhaps today? There is no sin. Being is unchanged. Would you still resist returning to the state of pure formless awareness? How long? O wholly aware extension of perfect love, how long? No long. There now.
because that's what he's saying. It's here now. It's available to you right now if you accept it. So why are you holding it off and saying, oh, well, sometime in the future, one day I'll be enlightened, but right now I've got better things to do. It's crazy. Better things to do than be yourself, right? Okay. Are there really better things to do? Or is that just a delusion?
I can feel in my energy, I can feel that I could easily switch out of this energy, this state, and go into the energy. And it's definitely a choice. I can feel it's such a clear choice. I can just stay in this lovely state. And it's tempting actually to come out of it and do something. Not tempting enough to do it, but interesting. I've never been here before. But, well, I have, but not for such a prolonged, deep sense of it. It's like I see the words on the screen, but they don't really mean anything. And it's just interesting. Just nothing here. And normally on a call I could, pick up thoughts, but there's nothing.
Well, that's the pure formless awareness. No thing, no form. That's what nothing means, no thing. But is nothing really nothing, or is it actually everything?
It's everything, isn't it? I wonder why I kind of want to just be quiet. But, then I was wondering about that. It's like, well, everything includes this call, includes the words. Well, is that the illusion? I suppose that's the illusion.
Well, it's underlying it. So, the words, and whatever the form is, sits on top of the pure formless awareness that underlies it. So think of it, a nice analogy maybe is the ocean and the ripples and the waves. So what sits on top is the ripples and the waves, and you can observe that, and that's always shifting and changing. But you go beneath that level, a couple of meters down, and it's just quiet.
Mm.
And the deeper you go, the quieter it is. Nothing's really changing down there. It's just this, deep, dark, still, quiet place. And
Yeah,
that's the majority of the ocean. The surface is just a very tiny little part of it.
So I'm used
to
being at the surface where there's ripples, and I've gone quite deep. It's just, yeah.
You go beyond the surface level, and then the surface level in the depth doesn't exist anymore. It's a different reality. And in these depths of your being, and it's just so beautifully peaceful, and there's no change, there's no ripples, there's nothing shifting and changing. It's just I'm rooted in the depth of my true awareness, my beingness, and it feels lovely. You don't have to try and analyze it or explain it. It just is a complete experience unto itself. This is why in the end, words, we move beyond words, because, well, what can you say? What can you really say about that?
I've also got the awareness of ego being nearby, calling to me.
So wanting to pull you up from the depths into the surface level. So no, but the surface level is still important. There's stuff to do on the surface level. And remember, on the surface level, if you identify with that level, you are a ripple. You believe you're a ripple or a wave. You're some formation, some form, and not the ocean. So ripple consciousness is a separated consciousness of the ego. Telling you you're not the whole ocean, you're this little ripple. And of course it's very transient. Like the ripple comes and it goes and then fades back into the ocean and then reforms, and maybe that ripple becomes a wave, but like eventually the ripple will cease to be. It's no longer in that form. And if you're attached to the ripple idea, then you think that that's the end. Oh dear, I'm going to die. My ripple form is gone. But actually, you just merge back into the ocean. That's always been there. That was always your true essence. And as I sink down into the depths of the ocean, from being a ripple, it's a completely different experience. No change, just stillness, quietness. No shift, no movement, compared with all of the shift and change that seems to happen on the surface of life. It's very, very different. So that's what you're moving into. It's a natural progression. If you don't go, then you stay in ripple consciousness. Then you're not really progressing with the course. His intention is to take you into the depths, universal experience, beyond words. Where he ultimately says, forget this world, forget this course, and come with holy empty hands unto your God. Come into the state of awareness and just rest there. And just be one with that, be in that state of awareness.
Yeah, I wonder if I come off the call, will I come out of the state?
Don't.
I've got this urge to just be, just not be on the call and just be in this energy state. No, in this state, not energy.
We'll we can do a meditation. That's probably going to be the end of it. See if you can, let's see how it goes. We'll do this and then see if you can do the text in that state and see what happens. Might be quite interesting. So you might just get a whole level of insight that you never got. Okay, so on to the lesson. So, Susie, if you can read the main lesson and then the alternative.
Let me remember that my goal is God. My only goal is pure formless awareness of perfect love.
As the alternative. So he's saying, you know, this experience, pure formless awareness of perfect love as an experience is your only goal. And so if you're experiencing that goal, then the course is working. It's delivering you to the ultimate goal that it is intended to. Its designer and Yeshua intended to deliver you to. And I put an only goal because it's an exclusive goal. There's no other goal. Any other goal that you make up will deny that. Oh, well, I value whatever it is. I value my work here. I value my family. I value experiences in the world. I value achievements. I value possessions. I value money. I value substances. I value on and on and on it goes. And now you've got another goal. And pure formless awareness of perfect love. Do you see how subtle it is? And that's what we've been doing our entire lives. Actually denying this presence by setting other goals and seeking them. And never really finding the satisfaction, the true beingness that we're looking for, because you won't find it externally.
It's a different viewpoint, isn't it? Being in it, where it all is, or being outside trying to look in. So a lot of the time I've been trying to look in.
And now you're in the depths and seeing from that perspective, and your perception changes. It's very different.
Yeah, you don't need words. Yeah.
So this is a very wordy part, of course, miracles. There's lots of words, but in the end, he's trying to take you beyond the words. That's the whole point, that you don't need words anymore because it's just a pure experience. In heaven, there are no words. There's no concepts. There's nothing to explain. It's just a pure experience. And that's knowledge rather than perception. Okay, so paragraph 1, all that we need to do is train our minds.
All that we need do is to train our minds to overlook all little senseless aims and to remember that our goal is pure formless awareness of perfect love. Its memory is hidden in our minds, obscured only by our pointless little goals that offer nothing and do not exist. Shall we continue to allow perfect love's grace to shine in unawareness, while the toys and trinkets of the world are sought instead? Pure formless awareness of perfect love is our only goal, our only love. We have no aim but to remember it.
Okay. Any thoughts or feelings on that?
I feel like I'm in like an echo chamber, and it's not that it's dark, but it's empty. And I can see that reading those words before, I was trying to get into this place. And I didn't know how to access it, like I didn't have the key to get into it. Just like seeing it from the inside, looking out, it's quite interesting. I could see why I couldn't get in, because I was like in my mind and trying to think my way in. And
You
now,
you can't think it, can you? Because thinking is related to form.
yeah,
This is about being. You just
be
have
it.
awareness.
Yeah, it's be it, isn't it?
You just have this awareness. It's beyond thought.
Usually when I'm dipping in it, I'm usually dipping in and out. And so I've got inspirations or insights, but there's just no call for that in it. There's no comparisons or aha moments to be had, because it is just is.
Mm. Yeah, well, welcome home.
It's not how I thought it would be. I thought I'd be really enlivened and kind of high, really. And actually, it's just very placid and calm and peaceful.
Mm. Yeah, and then if you go into a doing state, you might find that some of the more of that active, joyful energy comes in.
Mm.
That's how it expresses in that situation. So
And maybe I need to do to be able to get it to flow through me.
just I think these periods of deep beingness are really helpful.
Yeah, I've not felt it.
You're connecting with it profoundly, and then if you go back into doing, you take that deeper being with you, and then you see how that affects the doing.
Mm.
And how much more in flow maybe you are, or it brings a different quality to your doing, more peaceful being energy, which is what it's in the end, what miraculous, kind of miraculous manifestation is about. The only purpose of a miracle is to restore your mind to beingness. It's not really about the form. It's actually about the content. It's about restoring your mind to the being. So you stay in that beingness, and now you're able to do rooted in beingness. Well, that's miraculous. What will come from that? Well, we'll see.
Mm.
And then you can play with the being doing balance. So, okay, well, I'll take time out to be every day. Maybe that's the call, and then after the call, and then maybe you move back into some doing and see how that feels. Okay, so had my being, and really it's still the being that's doing. The flow state is you're still connected with being. Haven't lost connection. It's just a more kind of active form of it.
Mm.
And you might call that joy, or you might call that flow, I suppose, is a word, or happiness in action. And so that experience is its being, but it's being that's doing something. So that the experience is slightly different. Maybe experience it is different, but it's the same underlying essence. That's really the learning. Whether you're being or doing, whether your eyes are closed or open, it's the same underlying essence as in everything. So now you're not doing, you're being done through. It's doing it for you. Just guiding your thoughts and your words and your actions. And so it's effortless effort. No need to really try. It just happens through you. And that's the highest flow state. Which ultimately points you to the pure beingness that you are. Okay. So I'm just ruminating. I'm in a flow state myself, just speaking things as they come. So any thoughts on feelings on number 1, Susie? Paragraph 1. You have no aim except to remember this awareness.
It's nice, isn't it?
It's salvation. This is why he uses the word salvation. This is where you're at home. This is where you're peaceful always. You're calm. You're happy. You're safe. And it's always there for you. That state of mind is always there. It's never gone away. No matter what seems to happen on the level of form. Okay, so number 2, goal. If you read that, Susie.
My goal is only to follow in the way that leads to you. I have no goal but this. What could I want but to remember you? What could I seek but my identity?
He's telling us this is the only goal. In the end, the goal becomes the accomplishment. And there's no need for a goal anymore. I am it. I am love is the accomplishment of the goal. So you're not seeking anymore, you're just finding in the moment.
True identity.
Christ, the one self. There's one awareness, you see, a singular awareness. She realizes your awareness and everyone's and everything's awareness. And that's experienced as viscerally, experienced as real in the moment. It's no longer a goal, it's an actual experience. Okay, so what should we do? Should we go into a meditation?
I think I'm going to log off and just be with this feeling for a while.
Okay.
Well, it's not a
Do
feeling.
you want to listen to some of the meditations? Let me guide you in.
I'm there.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Have a blissful weekend. Okay. So Susie, what I can do a bit of the text if you want, or do you want to go into a meditation?
What do you mean by text?
The text of A Course in Miracles, which I always try and cover in sessions and never get to because we run out of time. So today's text reading is lesson introduction. There we go. Simplicity of salvation. We're on the last chapter, chapter 31, so section 1, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, it's quite a long one. 13. Why don't we do a meditation? See how we feel.
Okay.
Afterwards.
I've got to go and pick up a parcel because the parcels have changed, so I'm not going to have much. I'll do the meditation, but
about 20 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So just making yourself comfortable. Put yourself on mute. Sitting comfortably in the favorite meditation posture. Feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clench the sphincter muscle, lock the energy in, and rising up, warm wave of energy rising up into the crown of your head. Another sip of air, and it's a maximal inhale breath. And just pause at the top of the inhale. Breathing in the deep beingness, the peace. Hopefully you've connected quite deeply in today's session. If you notice any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations going on, particularly anything that feels at all negative or limiting, contracted, constricting in any way, shape, or form, just exhale and blow it all out. The breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. Like dark clouds just leaving you, going gone. To the nothingness. They really are. And what remains is pure formless awareness. Perfect love. It's the depths of the ocean, beyond the ripples on the surface. So rest here in this deep peace and stillness. For a few moments. Watch your breath, observe the breath flowing into the nostrils and the breath flowing out of the nostrils, and the stomach rising, falling. And just stay rooted in this deeper awareness. And let the breath take you into this deep, quiet, surrendered space. Just observe the breath flowing into your nostrils, touch of the breath in your nose, and then you exhale gently, just happening naturally. There's no attempt to change the breath, focus on it. Just use the breath to empty your mind and allow you just to rest in this deep peace. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe and out through your nose. Relax and be still. When your awareness down through the body briefly, and just do a little body scan, things we talked about Vipassana, and just observe the sensations in the body from the crown of your head, down the back of your head, through your face, relaxing your jaw, just noticing observing all the sensations. It's very clear, calm, aware state. And notice your neck and your shoulders. If there's any tension there, darkness, just notice it. And be willing to let it go. Just breathe out and release. Notice the weight of your arms hanging limply and heavily off your body. And your awareness down from your neck and shoulders into your upper arms, your triceps and your biceps, down to your elbows, into your forearms and wrists and your fingers. And run your awareness all the way back up from the tips of your fingers, your hands, your wrists, your forearms, elbows, upper arms, triceps and biceps. To your neck and shoulders again, just shrugging your shoulders, releasing any tension there. And you feel a lovely, heavy, warm, relaxed sensation in your neck and shoulders. Flowing down to your chest, the back of your chest, so upper back, middle back, your lower back, down to your abdomen, stomach. It's limp, heavy, soft and warm. Observe the sensations down there. Let this awareness flow down through your buttocks and your groin, seeping down like warm water into your upper thighs, the back of your thighs, down through your knees, to your shins, calves, ankles and your feet. So your whole body from the crown of your head to the tips of your toes is feeling limp and heavy, warm. So breathing in again. And then your awareness all the way back up from the tips of your toes your upper soles of your feet, the upper parts of your feet to the ankles, shins and your calves. And run up through your calves and your shins, your knees, to your thighs, upper thighs, back of your thighs, your groin, buttocks, stomach, chest. To your neck and your shoulders, down to your arms, triceps and your biceps, forearms and wrists. Your neck and shoulders, down to your arms, your fingertips, all the way up. Fingertips and then back. Feel the arms hanging limply and heavily off your body. And your awareness flowing back up into your neck and your shoulders, up the back of your head, into the crown of your head, through your face, relaxing your jaw. And just rest here for a couple of minutes. Just observe the whole body, zoom out, and focusing on a specific part. Just have a sense of an energy field. There's a presence and awareness that's aware of that. This is God. This is your own pure formless awareness. Perfect love. And just sink into the silence. There's nothing to do, nowhere else to go, nothing else to think about, no more techniques. Quiet, just be in the still, calm, quiet presence. Pure formless awareness, perfect love. It's grace that is shining in your mind. Let that shine through for the next couple of minutes of deep contemplative silence. any thoughts come up that seemingly disturb your peace, just be aware of them and gently let them go. Breathe in, breathe the spacious awareness in, and remind yourself that my only goal today is God, pure formless awareness of perfect love. So I let this go. Nothingness it really is, blow it away. The breeze of your breath, it's just like a cloud. There's no form and no substance, and surrender into the pure formless awareness of perfect love that lies beyond it. So just gently coming back, deep state of awareness, bring some awareness back into the body and the senses, and via that the world of form. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, nice deep breath in again. Notice the stomach rising and the chest rising. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Feeling energy rising up the spine, clenching the sphincter muscle, locking the energy in, noticing all of these subtle sensations around the breath. So if there's any thoughts, any emotions still going on, observe them. Remind yourself my only goal is pure formless awareness of perfect love. So it's the underlying stillness that I want. And so I release them. You exhale. Just blow them away with the breeze of your breath. And so let them go. Exhale. Blow them away. Notice how the air flows out, the chest and the stomach suck back in. Feel the energy raised up into your crown, subsiding back down to your lower stomach and your groin. Resting there for a few moments at the bottom of the exhale in this exquisite stillness. And anchor the state in, even while you're aware of sense perceptions, the stillness is there, very rooted in your beingness. The more you're aware of this, the more you'll stay there the rest of the afternoon and evening. And so breathe in on the count of 2, notice any breath flowing into your nose, notice any smell of that, maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment, noticing all these things from this very still, calm, and surrendered state. Notice what you're hearing, touching, feeling objectively, just without interpretation. So you remain rooted in your pure formless awareness, perfect love, just deeply peaceful. No matter what happens on the level of form, you're not a ripple, you're the deep ocean. So the ripples and the waves toss around and change all the time on the surface of the ocean are not your concern. The depths of the ocean, the beingness that still is there, experiences itself, even while sense perceptions are going by. And so just anchor the state in, awareness, very deeply peaceful. To help you stay there, remind yourself frequently this afternoon and evening, my only goal is pure formless awareness, perfect love. Let me remember only that. Tempted to move out of the state is the lesson to bring you back. Do a little breath break, giving you a 3-minute recording or instructions to do it in under a minute. Or you can just bring it to mind, take a deep breath, do it in a few seconds. It's really about connecting with the presence, hopefully you're feeling very strongly now, that underlies all form. And so on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just take a minute to ground yourself back into this world, so-called reality. Looking around, observing whatever's in the room around you. Focus on any object randomly for a second or 2. Notice that the deep awareness, this pure formless awareness of perfect love is with you still, even though you're back in sense perceptions. The underlying peaceful awareness that you hopefully experienced pretty deeply in the last 23 minutes of the meditation is still there. And then look at something else, notice that that awareness is still the same. It doesn't really matter what the object is. Your awareness remains untouched. And so you're training your mind that only the pure formless awareness of perfect love is true and real, and nothing else is true. Amen to that. So that brings us to the end of meditation and the session. You said you had to go, Susie. So thanks for joining again, and wish you a very peaceful afternoon and evening and weekend ahead.
Thanks, Jono.
Namaste.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.